The first time Ethan Turner told me not to follow him too closely, I thought he meant professionally. Turns out he meant emotionally. Too bad I'd already started falling for him before I even realized who he was. It was the middle of fall in Washington, D.C. The streets were wet from an early morning drizzle, the air sharp with the scent of rain and coffee. I just landed the biggest gig of my career, official campaign photographer for Ethan Turner, the youngest congressional candidate in the state's history. He was 30, ambitious, dangerously composed, and every journalist in the Capitol was obsessed with his perfect image. And now, so was I. "Stay out of frame, Mr. Hayes," Ethan said flatly, not even looking at me as he adjusted his cufflinks. "I don't need the press thinking I'm distracted." Distracted. The word hit harder than I expected. "Of course," I replied, forcing a smile. My camera strap dug into my shoulder as I shifted uneasily. "Wouldn't want to ruin the illusion of perfection." His eyes, gray, almost metallic under the cloudy light, flicked toward me for half a second. There was something there. A flicker. Recognition, maybe, but it vanished as quickly as it came. Ethan Turner wasn't just beautiful. He was carved out of silence and control. Every move rehearsed, every word weighted. And yet, when I looked through my lens, I caught glimpses of someone else, someone gentler, sadder, more human. That's the curse of being a photographer. You see the truth no one else notices. We traveled together for the next 2 months, rallies, interviews, fundraisers, private meetings in marble halls that smelled like power and lies. Ethan never broke character. The golden boy of American politics. The reformer. The savior. But at night, when the speeches ended and the crowds faded, I sometimes caught him alone on the hotel balcony, staring at the city lights as if they were stars he'd once made wishes on. And one night, something cracked. It was after a long fundraiser in Chicago. I found him sitting on the floor of his suite, tie undone, sleeves rolled up, a half-empty glass of whiskey beside him. The air smelled like exhaustion. "You shouldn't be here," he murmured, voice rough. "Neither should you," I said quietly, lowering my camera. "You look human for once." He laughed, a low, brittle sound that didn't fit him. "That's not part of the campaign." "I know," I said, kneeling beside him. "But maybe it should be." His gaze met mine then, sharp and searching. And suddenly, I was 12 years old again, standing under a summer sky in a small town in Oregon, watching a boy with the same gray eyes promise he'd never forget me. My heart stuttered. No, couldn't be. But it was. "Ethan," I whispered, voice trembling. "Did you ever live in Ridgewood?" His breath caught. For the first time since I'd met him, he looked afraid. "Why?" "Because I did," I said. "And there was this boy Liam who used to sneak out with me to the lake behind the old library. We used to talk about running away. You said you'd send me postcards from every city you went to." Silence. Then softly, "I did send them," he said. "You just never got them." I froze. The room tilted slightly, my pulse thundering in my ears. He stood up slowly, running a hand through his hair, that same nervous habit I remembered from when we were kids. "Liam," he said quietly, "I thought you were gone." In that moment, everything fell apart, the years, the distance, the lies. It all came rushing back. The summer heat, the promises, the way we held hands under the fading light, swearing we'd never forget each other. And yet he had, or so I thought. But now, standing here in a hotel room overlooking the city he wanted to change, I realized maybe he hadn't forgotten at all. Maybe he'd just buried that part of himself so deep that only I could bring it back. I wanted to say something, anything, but before I could, his phone buzzed, campaign manager calling. Duty pulled him back like a leash. He straightened his jacket, voice suddenly cool again. "This conversation never happened," he said, walking past me. And just like that, he was gone. The next morning, I caught him rehearsing a speech in the mirror, a perfect smile masking the storm I knew was raging underneath. The camera clicked and he flinched. "You love hiding behind that thing, don't you?" he said, trying to sound amused. "Only because it's the one place you let me look at you." His lips parted, as if to reply, but then he just shook his head. "Don't do this, Liam." Do what? Make me remember. The words sliced through the air. I lowered the camera. Maybe remembering isn't the problem, Ethan. Maybe forgetting was. For a heartbeat, he looked at me like he might say something real. Then the mask came back. That day, his approval ratings soared. Mine emotionally hit rock bottom. The campaign trail grew colder as winter approached. Rumors swirled about his private life, about a young male photographer always by his side. I watched him deny them all with that same flawless composure. It should have hurt less, but it didn't. One evening, after a rally in Boston, he cornered me backstage. "You need to stop taking photos of me when I'm not looking," he said, voice low. "Those are the only ones that look real." I shot back. He stared at me for a long moment. Then, quietly, "Maybe that's the problem." I wanted to scream at him, tell him that pretending wasn't strength, that love wasn't weakness, that we didn't have to be ghosts in each other's stories. But I couldn't. Not when the whole world was watching him, waiting for him to slip. So I just said, "Fine," and walked away. But love doesn't die just because you tell it to. It lingers in the shadows, in the silence, in the photographs you can't delete. The next week felt endless. Ethan's campaign went national, his face on every headline, every screen, every polished poster pasted against the walls of America. To the world, he was unstoppable. To me, he was fading. We stopped talking outside of work. Every photo I took felt like a silent plea. "Remember me." Every smile he gave to the cameras felt like a lie. But one night, during a live televised debate, something in him broke. Halfway through a question about his values, he froze. Just a second, but I saw it. His mask slipped. He glanced toward the audience and our eyes met. That one look burned through me, not political, not careful, just human. He stumbled through his answer, finished the debate, and vanished backstage before the applause even ended. I followed, my camera hanging forgotten around my neck. When I found him, he was standing alone behind the curtain, breathing hard, hands trembling. "Ethan," I said softly. He didn't turn around. "You shouldn't be here." "You've said that before," I replied. "Didn't stop me then either." He laughed bitterly. "You don't understand, Liam. They'd destroy me if they knew." "They'd destroy you? Or the version of you that isn't even real?" He turned, eyes blazing. "You think I don't know that? Every day I wake up and put on this suit and smile, and it's like I'm wearing someone else's skin. I can't afford to be him, the boy you knew. The one who," he stopped himself, jaw tightening. "The one who loved me?" I finished for him. The silence was deafening. He didn't answer. He didn't have to. I took a slow step forward. "Ethan, the world doesn't need another perfect politician. It needs someone honest, someone brave. You always wanted to change things, so start with yourself." He stared at me, torn between fear and longing. "You make it sound easy." "It's not," I whispered. "But nothing real ever is." For a long moment he said nothing. Then, quietly, he reached up and took off his campaign pin, the golden emblem he wore like armor. He turned it in his hand, then looked at me. "What if I lose everything?" he asked. "Then at least you'll finally have something true left." He smiled, not the polished smile from his posters, but the small, crooked one I remembered from the lake in Ridgewood. The one that once made me believe in forever. "God," he said softly, "I missed you." Before I could respond, he stepped forward and for the first time in years, he kissed me. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. It was trembling, raw, filled with years of denial collapsing all at once. And when he pulled back, there were tears in his eyes. "I don't know how to do this," he whispered. "Then let's figure it out together," I said. The next morning, everything changed. His communications director called an emergency meeting. Reporters had caught wind of a personal revelation coming from the Turner campaign. The internet was on fire with speculation. Ethan walked into the press room looking like a man walking toward a cliff, calm, composed, terrifyingly certain. I stood behind the cameras, my chest tight. When the reporter asked the question, "Mr. Turner, there are rumors about your relationship with your photographer. Care to comment?" The room went still. For a long moment, Ethan said nothing. Then, he looked straight into the cameras and said, "Yes, I care to comment." He took a breath. "The rumors are true." The words hit like thunder. Gasps, flashing lights. The press exploded into chaos. But he kept talking steady, clear, unshaken. "I spent years building an image that wasn't real. I told myself that if I hid who I was, I could make the world better. But the truth is we can't build anything good on lies. So here's mine. I love someone. His name is Liam Hayes. He's the photographer who's been following this campaign from day one. And he's also the reason I'm brave enough to tell you this now." My knees nearly gave out. For a second, the entire country seemed to stop breathing. Then came the storm, reporters shouting, cameras flashing, his manager shouting his name. But Ethan didn't flinch. He just looked at me, across that sea of noise, and smiled. The kind of smile that said, "We finally made it home." The fallout was brutal. Sponsors pulled out. Political allies turned their backs. The headlines were merciless. Turner's scandal shocks the nation. But then, something unexpected happened. People began speaking up. Veterans, teachers, college students, parents, kids who'd spent years hiding like Ethan had. They flooded social media with messages of support. "Stand with Turner" trended for days. For the first time, America saw him not as a symbol but as a person. And strangely enough, that made them love him more. Ethan didn't win the election that year. He lost by a narrow margin. But when he stepped onto the stage to give his concession speech, the applause went on for nearly 10 minutes. He looked out over the crowd, found me in the front row, and said, "Some things are worth losing for. Truth is one of them. Love is another." The crowd erupted. Cameras flashed. But for me, it was just us two boys from Ridgewood, grown now, standing in the open at last. Months later, we moved into a quiet apartment overlooking the Potomac. Ethan started working for a nonprofit still changing lives, just differently now. I kept photographing, only this time the world I captured was ours. One evening, as the sun dipped low over the city, he came up behind me while I was editing photos. "You still take too many pictures of me," he teased. "Can you blame me?" I said. "You're the best subject I've ever had." He laughed, leaning down to kiss my temple. "You know," he said softly, "when I was a kid, I thought love meant never being afraid. And now," he smiled, "now I think it means being afraid, but choosing it anyway." Outside, the city lights began to glow, tiny constellations scattered across the earth. I picked up my camera and turned it toward him, capturing that quiet, unguarded look in his eyes. The one that said everything words couldn't. Click. "You still keep that old camera?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, "because it remembers everything we tried to forget." He reached for my hand, fingers intertwining with mine. "Then don't forget this either." I couldn't if I tried. We stood there, framed by the fading light, the city alive beneath us. The world outside still loud, still messy, still learning. But in that small apartment, in that quiet moment, everything was simple. Two boys who had once lost each other. Two men who finally found their way back. And this time, nothing could take that away. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos.